Howdy y'all, finally back with the chronology videos. Geez, it's been probably 2 months or something since I made the last chronology, and that ended up with the Frank Miller closing out his run on Daredevil, which ended, I suppose, at the end of 82, maybe the opening months of 1983. In 1983, I took a break from collecting comics. I didn't pay much attention to anything until about the spring of 84. I was settling into my first apartment after having lived in my car for 8 or 10 months. So I obviously wasn't picking anything up at that time. All of my any spare money that I had, I was painting houses at the time and kind of running back and forth between Pennsylvania and Mississippi. Any spare money that I had, I must have spent it on marijuana. I was a big pothead at the time. Anyway, when I came back to collecting comics, it was in the spring of 84. What was I picking up at the time? I started making these journeys to Philadelphia, which is about 90 miles away, 90 miles southeast of central Pennsylvania, where I am. And I'd go down there every month or two and have a bunch of money in my pocket, and the back issues I were buying at the time were books that I had long sought after. And in those days, you could pick up high-grade Silver Age stuff for a song, really, with very few exceptions. In those early 80s, for instance, you could get things like Captain America 100, Iron Man #1, The Shield #1, all those kind of premier issues of the time, Hulk 102, for like $5 or $10, depending on grade. Easily had for $5 or $10. I actually bought a beautiful, absolute near mint to mint Iron Man #1. I would say probably in 1985 at a shop in Philadelphia. Beautiful thing. The thing just looked like it rolled off the press. And quite frankly, near mint copies of Iron Man #1, Cap 100, and all the rest are very easy to find. For some reason, I don't know why that is. Very easy to find near mint copies if you want to pay massive amounts of money for them. That's all. But they are out there in huge quantities. The exception to that was Silver Surfer #1. All the others, Doctor Strange 169, like I said, the Cap 100, Iron Man 1, Shield 1, all those other premier books of the time were easily had, but the Silver Surfer was always the exception. And I think I paid for my first copy of Silver Surfer #1, I think I paid $12 for it. And I no longer have it, but it, in my mind, I see it as a very nice mid-grade, kind of finish finish. It had a nice spine, nice well bound spine to it and all, because I was actively searching for that type of quality anyway. The centering and the strength and just a proper construction of the spine and all that. Anyway, another great story. I'm just kind of winging it here. I just realized now I don't have my notes that I had written down, and I also realized that I don't even have any comic books. Let me rectify that quickly. Damn it. I guess I'm getting old, friends. My mind is finally starting to go, yes? I just made a video showing these books, but hell, here, just for viewing's sake, here they are again. What was I talking about? Silver Surfer. Yeah, Silver Surfer #1. $12 for my first copy. I also remember a trip to Philadelphia coming home. I kid you not. With 3 copies of Green Lantern Green Arrow #76, including a beautiful near mint copy. I got the near mint copy. It was $20. And again, I think that was probably around, it was in the late days of the Philadelphia run, so it would have been probably in 1985. And I got 2 other copies. The one was like a reader, like a good to very good. And the other was a little better, probably a fine-ish, maybe a fine plus. Excuse me. All 3 books were less than $30. 3 copies of GLGA 76, including a beautiful near minter. Less than $30. How about that, y'all? It's an overrated book if you ask me, but that's just me. Another Philadelphia story was, and I love to tell this one, came across a copy of Batman #1. What's this called? Oh. Wow. Okay. Anyway. Batman #1. In my mind, I can see it as a solid good. Maybe good plus, maybe even a VG minus. It had no significant or singular significant defects that detracted from it, i.e. no large creases, no big chunks out. It was a cumulative effect, which is how I like my low to mid grade books. No 1 or 2, distracting defects. I like it as a cumulative effect. Anyway, Batman #1, $1,200. I expressed interest in the thing. Long story short, talked the guy down to $800. Right? I didn't have $800, but my friend Phil, who was with me, who is not a comic book collector, he was just along for the ride. He said, "John, I'll lend you the $800 if you really want it. I'll lend it to you. No big deal. You can pay me back. Whatever." I didn't do it. My notion was, I had never borrowed money from a friend before, and something told me that you don't want to drive money between, or into a friendship or something. Those kind of things can just become very, very ugly, and I kind of instinctively realized that, and I didn't want to go into debt. not even to a very close friend. And Phil remains a very, very close friend to this day. Anyway, I thought I would get farther along into this than I have. And when I think about the after Frank Miller's Daredevil and into Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, there wasn't much going on. Like I say, 1983 was kind of a write-off. 84, 85, I was going to Philadelphia and buying the back issues. Got my first Mylar bags in those early 80s. And started to pick up books again off the rack at a couple of local drugstores in my immediate area. They came to know me. I kind of sussed out when the new deliveries were, and they were on Tuesdays. And the clerks at those couple of stores came to know very quickly that, oh, I was the guy that came in on Tuesday mornings, bought up a stack of comic books, and they knew that I didn't even want them touching my books. You know, they became accustomed to that. So I'd take them up to the register, spread them out on my own, and they'd, you know, type in the price or whatever. So those books were among some of the highest grade copies that I've ever been able to maintain, off the rack copies. Superb. I would pick out, the stuff that I would pick out would be absolute perfect centered 9.8s. And you know, many cases an absolute 9.9, just without flaw. I mean, not even the tiniest little, as you can expect from a 9.8, 9.9. That's how I bought my books in the 80s. I'll wrap this up. Again, there was a lot more to talk about than I realized. I thought I was going to be able to blow through the 80s in one video. Not going to happen. And I feel like I may have even shortchanged the 82, 83, 84, 85 years. But I've got some notes around here, and I'll refer back to them. And if I missed anything in this video, I'll be sure to touch on that in the 1980s Part 2 video. And I'll kick things off with Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. And that will actually lead me into, and I'll touch on briefly, huge sea change titles, The Dark Knight and Watchmen. And then into the late 80s, when I got into buying wholesale books from the Koch Warehouse, which is going to be a terrific retelling. I can't wait to tell you all the tales of that and show you a bunch of the Koch Warehouse books I still have. And then that leads into the 90s, when I actually stopped buying new books off the rack and began to concentrate again on my back issues, and I became a cover collector. Just started buying books for their covers. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's just a little bit of a tease about what's coming up. Again, I apologize for rushing through this. When I get a hold of my notes again, I know they're around here somewhere. I'll touch on some more of those early to mid 80s points that I missed. And I'll pick up again with Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and how that Alan Moore's Swamp Thing off the rack was an amazing, amazing experience. But I'll get into that next time. Forgive me in my scatterbrained thing and not having books ready. I didn't have my notes, but y'all know me. I'm a one-take guy. I'm not afraid to just wing it. So, we'll pick up here again in the mid-80s. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.